Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and I hope you've had a lovely New Year's celebration. It's a brand new year, lots to talk about, and today we're going to be talking about Warhammer 3 and the possible new title that's going to be announced later this year. It's pretty certain what it's going to be, but hey, you know, we could see a fastball. But let's talk about a few things, right? Because my main concern is Warhammer 3. This is my favorite setting, Warhammer Fantasy, and I want to see it last as long as possible. So unless you've been living under a rock, Creative Assembly did a end-of-year statement, the usual thing, when they confirmed that a new title, possibly more given the wording, might be announced this year. They did say it's going to be, but Creative Assembly tend to say something is going to happen and then it gets delayed for whatever reason. Now, a lot of people think that this is going to be Total War 40k for one reason or another. There have been loads of rumors coming out, Valrak is getting louder and louder, and to be honest, a lot of rumors that come out from Valrak generally are on the money, barring the weird one recently where he said it was going to be announced in June. It's likely going to be the end of year. Keep in mind that the statement said it was going to be end of year. But he's right more often than not. I think he just might have misread something. He is from Manchester after all. And his sources are generally just actual devs who flat out tell him, and then he's brings it up as, oh yeah, I'm hearing rumors. Now, as the rumors for 40k are getting louder and louder, I am getting a little bit nervous, I'm not going to lie. It's mostly the fact that Creative Assembly seem to have problems running multiple games at the same time. Sure, there might not be that much left for Warhammer 3, but I am a little bit concerned that we're going to see it end before it actually got to its proper end in a sense. Let's be very clear here, there have been stuff that has derailed the speed at which content has released. The launch of Warhammer 3 originally, Shadows of Change, there's stuff that might have been approved, and to be honest, I've heard rumors of stuff that was approved that just hasn't seen the light of day yet, and I'm kind of worried that we might not ever see that. Not only that, yes, some races are at that point where they're not really going to be able to get much content justified in DLC packs. Just some examples, the Ogres are done, Khorne are done. It's very likely that Kislev is done in terms of new content, not reworks. We know that a rework is going to come sometime during this year, but yeah, those races are pretty much out of the picture. There's a bunch of others, though, that could still get a decent amount of content. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff left for the Skaven. We can look towards the Lizardmen, too. They are not only in desperate need of a rework, but yeah, there's still some stuff that they could get for another DLC. The Greenskins, despite the fact that they've just gotten something, could still get something, too. Naturally, a lot of people are waiting for the Empire. You know, Toddy should get his day and all the Knights of Ulrich stuff, because a lot of people want a full Ulrichian army. Now, I'm not going to list everything. The idea here is just giving some basic examples. There can be content going on for years and years. And with DLC coming out every 8 months or so, which is not really ideal, it does feel like things are slowly winding down in favor of the next titles. And this is something that Creative Assembly have done before, killing off Three Kingdoms before they even had a chance to actually take advantage that they had found the format for DLCs. Other titles too, they die very quickly in favor of the brand new shiny toy. Now you might think I'm just fear-mongering here, but it's something that has happened before, and it's always in the back of my mind, and I know it's in the back of the mind of other creators that I speak to. In fact, some of us just recently had a call a few days ago. But Warhammer 3's potential is actually massive. Recently, end-time stuff, official new end-time stuff, came into the picture with the Omens of Destruction DLC, and we've been seeing more and more of CA going into even tidbits of lore. Let's be honest here, they pulled the blood speaker right out of the ass of Games Workshop, because they only had a half a sentence worth of lore during the end times. So obviously, it's becoming a little bit more open to be able to create some stuff, and there's other bits of IP that they can use. The Blood Beasts were taken from pretty much Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and, well, changed up a little bit, which I'm kind of growing into a little bit now. But Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is a massive repository of loads of lore and even some creatures that we haven't really seen that much. It's something that I could imagine being used to create more monsters and units. Keep in mind that anything that Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay does needs to be approved by Games Workshop. Not only that, but believe me, I speak to a lot of people at Cubicle 7 often. You'd be surprised how well these guys know their lore. I remember talking about something really niche, and they were like, oh no, yeah, we mentioned that in this book because it relates to this. It's like, oh my god, They're really good at understanding the universe of Warhammer Fantasy. There is obviously stuff from Warhammer the Old World, but I don't know what's happening there. Keep in mind that originally, the end time stuff wasn't even on the table. I know some people are going to say, well, they never publicly said there was no end times on the table and stuff like that. They told the creators, they told us it was a different IP. Something has actually changed. This is a good thing, and it could change in the future for the Old World, maybe just for some units, because unless for some reason Bretonnians can't go on foot after 200 years, that makes no fucking sense. It's also important to note that it's not really a secret that they are cross-promoting in one way, shape, or form, even though the IPs are different, because we can look towards, say for example, Thrones of Decay. Null army, and then there was a Null list for the Old World where Null really wasn't that big of a contender at this point. If anything, most of the fighting was done through the churches, right? This is the whole Empire Civil War situation, and yet we got the first book and no Civil War stuff. The Doomseekers came in for the Dwarf DLC alongside the Goblin Hewer, and they're also available in the Old World, which is something big there to point out, because originally in the lore, the Goblin Hewers were made by Malachi. Malachi's not been born yet, and they retconned that so they could introduce it there, likely with the idea of, well, if it's going to be in Total War, we can also sell the miniature. The next DLC, which is likely going to be High Elves vs Slaanesh and some other faction, is likely going to have Sea Lord Aisling. And it's very much certain now that we're going to see the High Elf Sea Patrol and the Merworms coming in for the Arcane Journal for the High Elves, because they made a little joke in the roadmap about Merworming around. I'd asked a dev once, and they said, no, it's just a coincidence, but like, come on, it's not a coincidence. This stuff is done with plans and marketing involved, and probably that dev was just not privy to that information. But why all that exposition? Well, there's a lot of money still to be made from Warhammer Fantasy. Could you imagine if we're getting DLC at the same time as Total War 40k is getting its wheels turning? So we could end up getting like back in the day where we had DLC for Three Kingdoms, DLC for Warhammer, and then DLC for Troy. Back-to-back DLC was absolutely amazing for Total War fans, because that meant that content was becoming a little bit more consistent, and if DLC is going to take this long, well, it's about time they started looking at broadening their horizons a little bit rather than shutting some stuff down. We've all seen those estimations on how much Total War has potentially made in terms of revenue, and to be honest, I kind of believe that. If it's not around that number, I'd be very surprised. Because, like, there have been very strong rumors, people saying that they've spoken to devs and so on, and they've found out that, they've been told, apparently, that there's been a lot of sales for, like, Thrones of Decay, the DLC sells a lot, even Omens has sold a fair amount. They could keep milking this bastard for all it's worth and make it last longer. There's no real end date as far as we're aware, because these types of licenses can get extended, and I don't think Games Workshop, you know, the company that loves money more than Mr. Krabs, would say, yeah, no, we're done with Warhammer Fantasy, it's fine. Games Workshop are likely thinking about the money, going, yeah, if you run Fantasy alongside 40k, there'd be stupid amounts of revenue coming in. More that they can take, by the way, because Games Workshop has a very big cut when it comes to these DLCs or games and anything, really. As far as I'm concerned, the Warhammer Fantasy world isn't done. There's still a lot of races and factions that have been rumored for Warhammer the Old World. Now, that stuff is, like, maybe down the line in years to come, but that stuff could also make its way to Total War Warhammer as a first type of look, like we've had for Cafe, right? Cafe released, 3 years ago now? We still don't have it on the tabletop, and we know that they were working alongside each other for the creation of that. Same thing goes for Kislev, so yeah, I mean, I could see stuff like Ind, Kurash, maybe Arabi, Estalia, Talia. Those ones, actually, Talia, Estalia, and all that type of stuff, have been fleshed out through Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay over the years recently. So it's clear that something is in the back of the mind. Games Workshop always leave a lot of stuff open to interpretation, and the whole Adora Jar system there. A big reason why I'm thinking about this is because if it ends up ending, it's just not going to feel complete, right? There's 2 chunks of map which are currently, right now, just unplayable unless you use a mod. Everything just feels like there could be more to it. There's obviously rumors that there's like 3 DLCs left. Everyone's been saying the Slaanesh, High Elves, and something DLC, the Dogs of War, and my cat wants my attention. The swan dived onto me. Alright, so yeah, Dogs of War, and then End Times. That's 3 DLCs, that's not really enough. Especially with the 8-month droughts that we've been getting, right? It just feels a bit empty. Unless this hypothetical End Times DLC is like the size of the base game itself, I really don't see this being complete in the eyes of many players. But yeah, I just wanted to voice some stuff. I've been thinking about it a lot recently since the blog post I've been talking to some other creators around because, yeah, we're all kind of thinking about it. It's something that we've seen happen in the past, but it could be so profitable for Creative Assembly to have both up and running. Obviously, using that money for good decisions like more Total War games and improving Total War and not doing another Hyenas. Maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I can't stop thinking about it. I'd rather not leave any stone unturned in that sense, right? So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. We're back into the usual daily content, I think. It's just getting the wheels turning again, and I'm painting a bunch of stuff right now. I'm actually, at the time that this video ends, I'm heading to paint up a bunch of Knights Panther stuff if you've been seeing me post on Twitter. I hope you guys are having a great one, a great start to the new year, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day, guys.